Last year, Anel Lilic was the interim head coach of the North Georgia men's soccer team. They won 9 games and went undefeated at home. Shortly after the season, the interim tag was removed. Lilic's tryout period was successful. Now, just a few days before his first full season as the full-time head coach, he sits down to talk about it all with us on the latest edition of The Hawk's Nest. Hello everybody, welcome back to The Hawk's Nest here at the University of North Georgia. I'm Brennan Shabath, and today our guest is quote-unquote first-year head coach Anel Lilic with the UNG men's soccer team. Anel, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we say quote-unquote first-year head coach because last year you had the interim tag that was removed in the off-season, and now you've had time to have an off-season as the full-time head coach. Take me through last season in what's like kind of a tryout period where you're the interim and you are the head coach in practice and you're making the decisions, and at the same time you're still trying out to be the full-time head coach at the end of that season.
Yeah, I mean, you know, being a part of North Georgia for different spells, but over 10 years, we just really wanted to do a good job with the group. I think we knew we could implement, you know, the coaching structure and the principles of the game within the players, but you know, we were lucky to have the support of our admin, you know, Mayor Rob and Derek and Lee and everyone that was on board backstage. They really supported us and wanted us to succeed, and then the players bought in. So I would say it was probably a little bit easier last year because they had a motive to go out and compete outside of winning, but I think they really wanted us to be hired full-time, so they gave them an extra incentive. So it was kind of a cool thing between, you know, us as a group and the players, but they were really fighting for us as well. And again, from our standpoint, we just looked at it as doing the best job, and that's all we could control. And yeah, it was a little bit odd when you see people on campus interviewing for the job that you have but don't have. Yeah. But no, that was, I think that's kind of what I try to also live my life by. Like the only thing we could control was training the team and doing the best we could on the field, and you know, trying to maintain as much, you know, off the field stuff, and show the administration and obviously the new president that, you know, we could run the program and do a good job. So, and then it ended up that that's what happened. So. Yeah.
Now, there's no doubt in my mind that the players wanted you. I saw that video when Mary Rob steps aside and reveals that you're going to be the head coach in the locker room, and they're going nuts. And what was it like for you to get that kind of reception? And maybe you thought it and felt that they might feel that way, but to see it, you know, proof positive right there. What was that, you know, that night like?
No, it was awesome. It was a great feeling, you know, and especially to see some of the boys that I was with for, you know, several years, and you know, their response. So no, it was great. You know, I think I was excited. It's obviously, you know, North Georgia again has been part of my life for a long time. So it was, you know, quote unquote a dream job, you know, and to be here. So yeah, I think the only feeling I could think of was just excited, and you know, I was thrilled that, you know, that was a decision that, you know, the people above me went with, and that they put their trust in me. So yeah.
From that night, you guys have that little reception in the locker room between you and some of the administrators. When you left that locker room, how many minutes after did you get to business? Because from everybody I've talked to, it's not many minutes before it was, let's go and get ready for next season.
I think we had 3 or 4 commitments that night. So, and a lot of text messages from random people. So it did take the night to celebrate with my family, but you know, in terms of business, yeah, we did. You know, obviously, I think some of the, especially domestic recruits, they were waiting, you know, to see what was going to happen. So, yeah, business-wise, we had a couple of good deals happen that night. But yeah, you know, probably the next morning, I did celebrate it with my family.
Right to business, yeah. So now here we are, and it's we're about to see that business in 15 days. The season starts. 42 guys on the roster this year.
It's a lot.
A lot of newcomers, 28 of them. How long did it take you to memorize everybody's name?
I'm pretty good with names, so not long.
Absolutely. No.
Omar, on the other hand, a little longer.
Your newest assistant, Omar, joining you this year. But yeah, I mean, What was like going through your mind just adding these? Did you say no to anybody? I mean, this
we said no to a lot.
Roster.
So it's actually kind of worked out now, but our reasoning behind it was, we wanted to recruit a lot of good top-level domestic kids, and then obviously get some older kids in as internationals or just older. I think we have 5 transfers that are domestic as well, that could come in, have a bit of maturity, and lead the group. And we've always within this program, even years ago, we would recruit domestically, and sometimes some of the guys aren't ready. So we wanted to have enough to give them the proper training environment. So what usually used to happen is, you'd have a travel roster, but you have a roster of 30, so there's like 6 guys. It's difficult to train a group of 6 and give them everything they need. So part of it was competition within the squad, but part of it was also giving them, everybody a true developmental environment, and giving them time to succeed. And maybe they're not going to be ready in year 1, but I'm happy with everyone here. The level is quite high, and I think there's been some changes in who the top guys are, and the middle group, and the group below that. So everybody's at a good enough level to provide something positive in training.
Right.
So again, some of them, and it's the conversation we've had with them, they won't be ready and they may not play the first year, but we're going to ensure from our standpoint, from our staff, that we're going to give everything to them to give them an opportunity to be ready. Whether it's somebody dropping out, they need to step in this season, or it's next year. So that was our thought behind it. And then obviously with the way soccer works is, they show up on campus, and because we're not allowed to do anything with them in the summer.
Yeah.
And as good as athletes we have, they're still 18 to 22-year-olds, and some of them might not prepare as well for preseason. And so, out of that 42, right now we're training with about between 33 to 36, depending on the day. So that was another reason for it, just a gruesome season, that it's packed within 20 games within 3 months, and how physically demanding our sport is. There's a lot of muscle things and guys in and out, and so we wanted to ensure that we had depth in every position.
So that's interesting. So you played it like a numbers game, where with 42 guys, you can essentially, all of them being healthy, considered, you can essentially field 4 teams at a time. And now even down to 33 when you're practicing, you've still got 3 sets of 11 that can go out there. I find that really interesting that was part of your idea in building the roster that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think I always hated training with like low numbers and not knowing. So we can always organize and plan for the proper training session and get everyone what they need, and ensure that we'll have good enough numbers to do that. So
that's interesting that you say you always hated training with a low number like that, because from my perspective as a third party, I see a lot of early you in a lot of these guys, and I see your experience relating well to them, and that they understand that you know what you're talking about because you were in their shoes not too long ago, especially some of the international kids. How have you felt that, not too far removed out of college? I mean, you graduated, 11 years ago from Emmanuel. Not too far removed from college, you're teaching and mentoring these young men who you were in their shoes just not too long ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm at a much better place than I was in 2013 when I went straight from college to being a GA with men's soccer here. But, I think I've always put the players first. So, quote unquote, a player's coach. It's my strength to bring people together in a common area. And I know I have people around me that have different strengths. So I think it works well that we balance each other. But we spend a lot of time with the boys. I think they see the investment we make and the hours we spend, not just running the sessions, but planning them, and the hours we spend with, off the field with them. I think they appreciate that. And then ultimately we wanted to recruit and bring in players. I know they're here to get a degree, but we wanted guys that wanted to play soccer. So I think they appreciate what we put out to them, and they reciprocate. So, I mean, that's probably the biggest way of connecting that relationship, with them. And I always looked at, I've had some great coaches in the past, but I've always looked at, myself as a player and what what did I want more of, and we try to do that. So we try to base what we provide them based off of our own experiences, as you said. So, always try to look at what did I not have that I could have been provided, and that's not necessarily tangible things, but individual time or like small group time, things like that they could really get something out of. So again, just goes back to us, giving everything to give them the best opportunity to succeed on the field, and then hopefully that translates into everything else.
The word that I hear a lot from the guys in relation to you is care. A lot of them said I could immediately tell how much he cared about me and about his team. And it's very obvious that you do care for this team deeply. I'm wondering why that is. Where does that come from? Because it's so genuine, and it doesn't seem fake at all, like you said, being a player's coach. It's because you care for these guys. Where is that rooted?
I think it's just a personality characteristic of mine. I like people. I like to be around people. I like to, if I'm in a leadership position, I want to see the people around me succeed. So, ultimately in a profession where we're judged by wins and losses, and we have to make difficult decisions sometimes about the people we care. Sometimes those relationships can get strained, and not everybody in today's world in sports finishes where they start. But I try to maintain a relationship with everybody that's been here, that's gone through here, and we genuinely care about them becoming better players. And I know we hear a lot of coaches talk. That's the only way that I know how to give them an opportunity to grow and become better men, and it's through the discipline and dedication that they put in to the sport. It translates into other areas, and I truly believe that. So I don't think you can fake it, for a couple of hours and then go off and do something else, and you start being unsuccessful, probably in a lot of areas. So I think circle back to your original question. I think I just enjoy people. I enjoy people, watching people succeed. I enjoy the camaraderie. Playing sports since I was very young. I thought it was kind of scary, not knowing what to do when I was about to graduate and finish my playing career. So luckily Pat called and I was able to get right into coaching. So I still had that team environment. So I think it's special, and again, I love being part of it. So I think it stems from that.
So what are you looking for in a player, both on the field and off of it, when you're recruiting? Because the interesting thing to me about recruiting in college soccer is that, from my perspective, so much of the game is not as focused on the stats as maybe some of the other sports are. In baseball, you've got a million numbers that are going to tell you something about this guy. In soccer, you've got goals and assists and shots, and that's pretty much it. The rest is what you see on tape. How do you go about filtering out who you do and don't want in that recruiting process?
I think it all stems back to if they're a good player or not, so that we start there. And you're right, you could have a player that's, there's intangible things in soccer that you can't judge based on statistics. So their character, their demeanor, their response to actions, when they fail, when they succeed, how they carry themselves when we go and watch them. So we try to spend a lot of time, especially with the domestic kids, going out and watching showcases and games and getting to know them and their families. And luckily, I've gotten to know a lot of them over my years in Georgia, but that's kind of the same approach with even the internationals, and trusting, several sources, and not just kind of going, whoever, emails us or something, but we have some sources that we can trust in several countries, and we kind of go and filter it through that. But yeah, it's also dependent on positional needs for the year, and I think we try to build ourselves around being a team that wants to have the ball, and then off the ball we want to work hard. And so guys that don't really like to run and put in the extra effort, they're probably cut out right away, because they wouldn't fit what we're trying to do. So yeah.
So you're relying on other people back in other countries for your international recruiting and scouting, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think a lot of college soccer is that way.
Really?
We're fortunate I'll be doing an international trip in December. I was fortunate to go last year to England. So we try to get out there and build those connections. So we know the people, and again, they get to know us. And I think it helps building that relationship, because people want to help you out as well. And it helps them and their, recruiting agencies and services when they're sending players out here. But I'll be honest, my best recruiters are my players.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm going to hopefully stick to that, because they want to be successful, and they want players around them to be successful, and they want to bring in players that'll help the team be better. Right. So obviously we still have to vet, the guys that they give us, but sometimes we'll find the guy and we'll find that there's a connection with someone on the team, and so it helps to kind of trust them, as well, and people they know. But yeah.
So, being from Bosnia yourself, not born in the United States, you've got 12 players who share that, not being born in America, with you and with their other 12 teammates, or 11, I should say, this season. Was that a focal point for you when you became the head coach? Because you know the type of talent that's in other countries versus the domestic recruiting that you're used to as well?
I wouldn't say a focal point. Like, our philosophy is to go out and find the best players, and regardless of what region or areas. Obviously, soccer's a global sport, so especially on the men's side, I think with the academies and the structures, in other areas, the kids are playing year-round, and they're also at various ages competing against grown men, where it's a little bit different in the States unless you're like in an MLS academy, So, but again, I think we're really, really happy with, the 17 guys we brought in that were, I think 17 Georgia native ones and one from Florida and one from Virginia, and then the rest were international. Like, with the group of 28 that we brought in, we're very pleased with all of them. So, again, with the Georgia kids, it's great if we can get them and get the top ones, because obviously Hope and academics, it helps us with our budget. But yeah, I don't necessarily think it's, just my background, but it's just finding the best players. And, again, our sport being so global, they're out there, and it gives an opportunity for a kid from, England or Serbia or whatever, South American country to come to the Laniga, and most of them end up loving it. We don't get many leaves, so yeah, it's cool just to give them a different, for most of the internationals, it's a completely different life and a different opportunity to come to the States, so yeah.
And the same opportunity that you got back when you moved to the United States, obviously a little bit different circumstances. Right. You moved because of the Bosnian Civil War, and your hometown of Sarajevo came in 2000. How much of that do you remember, that move? You were such a young age, born right around the time everything started over there, the conflict. How much of that do you remember, and did that influence the move for you in that experience?
Actually, I remember all of it. My best memory is getting off a plane to Atlanta, and you see this big city, and we were sponsored by this Episcopalian church in Clarksville, which is in Habersham, which is where I grew up. Right. And we just kept driving north, and it was like, no more city, no more buildings. This is Northeast Georgia 24 years ago now, and it was just pastures and nothing. So I was like, what the heck did I get into? But I didn't really have a choice because my family moved here. So it was interesting. Again, there's a lot of Balkan people in the Atlanta region, and there's a lot of us that immigrated from that whole Balkan region in America, but there wasn't many in Northeast Georgia. So kind of growing up, it was cool to assimilate within the culture, and then I still had my own culture and heritage and traditions at home. But yeah, I thought it was a cool experience, and I think it definitely drives maybe some of the relationships with the international guys and getting them to experience, not just this college experience, but the culture in the States, and during the summertime or wherever you have off, maybe visiting different cities, and I think that's a neat thing about the States is all the regions are a little bit different. So yeah, my experience was definitely different than theirs because they're just coming straight to play soccer, but it was a good one overall.
And you mentioned assimilating to a new culture here in Northeast Georgia and still sticking to your roots. By all accounts, you've now at this point here in 2024 assimilated pretty well. Big country music fan, big cornhole fan. Apparently, the thing that intrigues me the most that I've heard is you love the grill.
I do love grilling.
Steak. Well, I mean, where does all that come from?
I think that's more of my Bosnian heritage and tradition. Like, we always had big family events on weekends, and like, I don't know, 50 to 100 people are always there, and so I enjoy. You'll have to come now that I'm moving up here.
Right.
I do enjoy grilling and hosting.
So you've got no problem cooking for 42 guys. That's nothing.
No. We just cooked. We had my girlfriend's little party on Friday, and I think there might have been 40 people there. I don't think I said a word to anyone. I think I just stayed by the grill. So
grill master.
No, I do. I enjoy cooking. I like all kinds of music, but I think one of my players might have told you because I just went to a concert. But yeah, I do like country. Being outdoors, I think I'm a pretty normal person, and I step away, and sometimes I'm more of a homebody now than I probably used to be, because things are too loud, and I want to relax, which is probably where the grilling comes in. And like, everybody come here, I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
But yeah, I just enjoy life. I like it, do things, meet people, and have experiences. So.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that helps you relate to the players as well? I mean, you said being a player's coach is what you think is your best trait and important to you. Does having those, just pretty regular, everybody likes that kind of stuff, cornhole and grilling and country music for the most part. Does having that, make it easy to relate to them?
Yeah, I think, obviously there's things that we don't talk about, and they're, in each other's personal lives for them, unless they're wanting to share and things. But, I'm pretty open, and I think they can sense that, again, I'm just a normal person, and sometimes they also appreciate that I have to hold them to a standard, because it's not always rah-rah and yelling, but, I think when we do raise our voices, they go, oh, okay, so, yeah, it definitely builds into the relationship. Again, I like having the relationships with them so that we can trust each other and know that it's also professional when the whistle blows and there's referees and people out there, or when we're at training, and then outside of training, then it can be a little bit different.
And so that's a balancing act that you're going to have to do, is manage that friendship side and the business side. I imagine there's also a balancing act with 42 guys on the roster this year that, from what I've heard from other coaches, it's very, very difficult to keep everybody happy, let alone most of the guys happy. So, and you've got different personalities and backgrounds, like we've talked about. How do you go about handling all this encompassing while you've got 11 weeks to win as many games as you can? Well, what makes that so difficult, and how do you do that?
I don't think it's as difficult as people make it out to be. And we set a standard from the start, and the boys have so far upheld and understood it. But we don't, as brash as it sounds, but we don't really care about making them happy. We're going to give each and every single individual that's part of the group, all 42 of them, minus the 2 that are out, but even those, but all 42 of them, we're going to give everything the same that the number 1 guy gets, number 42 is going to get, and he's going to have the same opportunities, and we'll be honest with them if they're not ready this year, but our goal is to have all of them be here for 4 years. So that is the first thing I told them. So we'll give everything from ourselves to make sure that they're ready and that they're better by next week and next month and next year. So again, we prepare them. And again, I think the type of characters that we have right now, as I said, they're here, they want to play soccer, and we're honest with them. It's not like we're saying, hey, you're going to be the star, and then just give them false hope. Like, we're honest with them, and if they can take that and continue working, then great. They're going to be part of our program. And if they start withering away towards that other side where it's making a negative impact on our program, then I think that's when we have, again, those difficult conversations. But yeah, we're here to make the best starting group, and honestly, I think right now we have quite a few players to pick from, and it's competitive, so it's great. Everybody's enjoying it, but ultimately we all win, we all lose, and so everyone's on board right now, but hopefully we keep everyone on the bus, and if not, then it's not going to come from a standpoint where we didn't give them an opportunity. So yeah.
So that's kind of setting personal expectations for the guys. As a team, though, you've got this ragtag group of guys from different places, some with much playing experience, some with not a ton, transfers, freshmen, guys who had gap years. It's all over the place. With a kind of ragtag group like this, how do you set team expectations for yourself, and then how do you relay that message to them?
In terms of...
We're going for a championship, we're going for X amount of wins, whatever it is. It's easy to say we want to win a championship this year. It's another thing to really believe that you can do it. How do you handle that?
Yeah, we haven't discussed that. I think there's been more talk in the locker room than from us. We just take day by day, and we want to implement how we want to play and our style, and make sure that everybody has a clear picture. And again, everyone has a job and a responsibility, and if they don't do their role, then again, we need to help them learn that role, and it's really just the process. So I think with our staff, we're more focused on the process daily and really perfecting, which will never be perfect, but trying to be as excel in our philosophy and our style of play daily, and just get better day by day and take it one game at a time. So, because the cool thing about college soccer is you could lose all the games in regular season and win 4 at the end, and it's a great season, So, again, I don't foresee that happening, Mary Rob, sorry. But yeah, we're just going to take it game by game. I think the results will come as long as everybody has a clear role, and we've done everything we can to give them that role, and they stick to it as a group and as a whole and a collective. I think we'll be in a good place. So.
Day by day. Sounds like a good way to take it.
That's it.
And I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck this year.
Thanks so much, Brendan.
Yeah.